going to subsidise about a start of about 6,000 affordable homes. We could build 6,000 affordable homes by way of shared ownership and by way of the state taking an equity stake in that house. And I've discussed this with co-ops like Cllr as well about how best to structure that. So we're looking at an average sales or sale price, an average, this will vary from parts of Dublin to others, of on or about 200,000. So in that type of region, you see for many working people and for many couples that it will mean that actually that price is attainable and the mortgage is affordable, and that's really important. Many of these people, by the way, I think you'll know loads of them, I know my own brother and others, who've been paying extortionate rents, that if they could get a mortgage, like I've had people coming in to be paying rents of like 14, 15, 16, 17, 1,800 euro a month for 2 bedrooms apartments, and who were lucky enough to be able to get a mortgage, and their mortgage is 800 euro less per month. So there's loads of people caught in that vice at the moment where you can actually really reduce their outcome, stabilise their financial situation, and then you're also releasing that money there to be utilised in the local economy or to be saved or whatever. So we keep people, this treadmill that people are on at the moment needs to stop, and that is in relation to the rising rents, continually rising, and actually people chasing that rent with less security and not having any houses to buy. And that's one of the things that we might cover later on is that, as I mentioned earlier on, people now competing with investment funds to buy houses. In my own constituency, Dublin, Fingal, which is a million miles away from here, but very similar, very similar demographic to here. We had in Darragh a scheme of houses that was being built by Glenveigh, which were on the market for about 320,000, which is a stretch, but for some people could stretch to that. 40% of that estate was sold to a real estate investment trust and has been sold for private rental, just like that. Sold in Balbriggan and Taylor Hill as well. So in total, about 118 houses in the space of a week were sold. And that's happening all over Dublin. And that's an issue, and that's something that we need to address. So we'll move on very quickly, because there's lots to go. On social housing, which is really important. Okay, and we have a track record, and I don't mind saying that. We have a track record as a party of delivering on social housing and on building public housing. Now we need new models of that. We need to get back to direct build. We need to get back to partnering with co-ops. We need cost rental and affordable rental as well. But on the building side of things, these figures are slightly out of date. So you're actually looking at more than that. But about 108,000 households, probably close to about 115,000 households that are actually on the housing waiting list right now. There'll be a lot more, because a lot of people who are on the housing assistance payments, unfortunately they're being instructed, the local authorities are instructed to take them off the main housing lists and put them on the transfer list. And that makes the figures look better. Now, some local authorities thankfully are pushing back against the government on that and saying no, because that's masking the real figures. But that is an issue for people, that you go for housing assistance payment and you're basically going straight on to the transfer list and taken off the main list. Housing assistance payment is not a sustainable way of housing our people either. Cost-wise, it would break the state in a few years to come. It's much better that we actually put money into building homes. Since 2011, by the way, we've put about €4 billion, we being the state, into private rental subsidies. That's a lot of money. But in the same period of time, just over 3 billion in building homes. About 3.2 billion in building and about 4 billion pumped into the rental market. And that has been part of. There's a necessity with some of it for emergency rental measures, but that's been part of actually driving up the rental prices. And no doubt in my mind that that's happening. Just go back one very quick one. The most important figure, in my view, and the most important thing in all of this, is over 10,264 people homeless in emergency accommodation. We know it's more than that, and 4,000 kids. And that absolutely, totally another needs to be addressed. So I'll move on very quickly over the next view. This is the Rebuilding Ireland targets versus delivery, but what this really tells you, this is the Rebuilding Ireland, the government plan, is that it's all moving towards acquisition. Where the targets are being overachieved, and we'll move on to the next one, is if you look at, here's some of the targets: rapid build, 1,500 by 2018, deliver 208. These aren't my figures, these are government figures. 800 leasing and repair, 48. Now you'll see all the figures all the way down here. Affordable rental, none, since it was announced in 2015. Enniskerry Road, maybe we might have something to say on that. That's a pilot scheme that was announced in 2015 that hasn't started yet. And affordable houses, no, through the state, that is. this is the thing in relation, I just wanted to debunk this idea that there was nothing built in the difficult years. These are figures from you take from 2007 to 2010, which were really tough years, and no one's disputing that. In that period of time, there were nearly 14,600 social homes built. Not enough, but at that period, at that stage, we had, if you go back a couple of slides, we had less than a quarter of the people on housing waiting list than we have now. But that was about 3,645 built, not purchased, built. In the same period of time, between 2011, 5 years, and 2016, we've had about 508 homes per annum. So there's a big difference there. So it shows you the move has been away. So just move on there, if you don't mind. Cllr here, Cllr wrapped down. Between 97 and 2010, you had 74 homes being built a year in this area. That's down to now about 31 homes. Cormac's mentioned how many people on the 4,500 and being added to. So if you're going to build at that level, you might as well not bother.
37 years.
Yeah, there you go. So like this is the challenge that we face. The challenge isn't insurmountable, by the way. And we'll move on. This is what I was talking about earlier on. The money that's actually gone into current and capital. Now we'll move on again very quickly. Keep going here. I suppose though the fundamental thing, and I think that will probably cover a lot of this, is part of our affordable housing scheme is actually utilising the land that we own, the service land and the zone land that we have ourselves. And so I'll move on because you're going to go into that, so I won't go into too much. Our scheme will permit that our focus on affordable housing will be building on our own land first. So in the period of time since we've entered into confidence buy, we have managed an extra 600 million in capital funding, but we haven't seen it come through the system quick enough. We have not seen houses being built. That will enable about another 2,500 units to be built based on current targets. But that's not even going to keep up with the level of demand that's there. And that's not to depress people. I see you there, it isn't. But the thing is that if you have a focus on actually delivering, and what I want is a housing delivery office, and that's actually part of our policies, not a land development agency, just deliver the homes, deliver private and deliver public. Treat it like the emergency that it is, and utilising partners like what Cllr and our approved housing bodies to actually get going on affordable housing. So that affordable housing shouldn't just be a scheme, and we're going to start it off as a scheme, but affordability should be something that permeates right the way through the market. It should be part of our housing market from now on in relation to things like affordable rent and also in relation to affordable rental, and cost rental. So we'll just move it on there a wee bit. Look, we know that these are the figures that we see here in relation to rents, and that's why we need an affordable rental scheme. And that's why we need cost rental rolled out into the market. These figures aren't sustainable. Rent pressure zones have to some degree, and I want to say they have in some areas been able to calm the level of rent increases themselves. But when you're looking at averages in Dublin, and those figures are about 4 months old, of nearly 1,900 per month average. So you're touching £2 grand a month in net income. That's 4,000 in gross income. That is a lot of money. And there are issues on the security tenure that people have. So, look, I'm not going to detain you too much longer. Just say we might move on a little bit more. There are a number of things that we need to do on the rental side of things. The most important is in relation to delivery of homes and allowing the local authorities go and build themselves. So in the last budget, right now we have a situation whereby that any scheme over €2 million has to effectively go to the Customs House to go through their 59-week process of checking and rechecking and sending it back and forth between Cllr wrap down and housing. What we want to do is we want to raise that threshold to 10 million. So you give autonomy back to the local authorities to say, right, on schemes up to 10 million, that you can go and you can procure those schemes yourselves. Not a drop in standards, but the oversight level would be on the basis of audit. I have situations where I have county architects all over the country complaining to me that they've sent schemes in and they're being rechecked by someone who's 3 or 4 grades their junior. These are qualified architects, and we're taking 59 weeks to even give the green light to go out and to procure, to actually procure the scheme itself. That is a major problem. So lifting what's called the discretionary cap will help, and it will